Hi, Yvonne.
Hello. Just having a nice little dance to the intro music as you do. Just warm the body up and get ready for today. Oh my goodness, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm just in a process, like I want to sneeze, and it doesn't come and stuff. But you might see that it happens in the middle of the discussion. It's fine. It's what it is.
Do what
I've
you're
been
going to do. Do what you're
earlier,
going to do.
so.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So welcome to another Thursday and the last Thursday of January. So in the blink of an eye, 1 month has
yeah, I didn't realize that.
That's the reality of time. That's what happens, right? So, but here we are. We're back again this week. We're still looking at the I am alone theme. And this week we're looking at it through the lens of the controller. So interesting one, because I know that this is...
I know one or two things about that one.
Well, you know what? As I think we've said it before, it's always great when we are talking about a saboteur that we are familiar with personally. You know, one that has come up for us either in the past or is very much present now. I just feel that it's so much easier to kind of tap into our wisdom of it and the experience of it in that moment. So it's wonderful that you can share that experience of the controller. But of course, of which you've been doing lots of work on. So let's also be really honest and fair that the saboteurs that we have, based on the work we've been doing on them, have really quietened. They haven't disappeared, they haven't gone anywhere, but they have quietened. And that's the beauty of doing this work. That's the beauty of mental fitness, the beauty of positive intelligence. So let's take a look at the controller. And I'm going to ask you to start, of course, Evie, because it would be really
Well, I'm very familiar with the controller. Controller is one of my highest saboteurs, and also it's something that has been, prominent in my life. I didn't need to take the saboteur assessment. No, I have been told time and again from people around me, and I have seen it in my life. And it can be a very lonely place when you start controlling everything, or you want to control everything, because let's face it, very little things, very few things are actually for us able to control. Sorry. So that is the whole point, is that you think you can control everything, you want to control everything, very little you can control, really, and so you feel alone, having this big battle of trying to control everything. Nothing gets controlled. Everybody around you is like wondering what's going on with you, and you're thinking, but can't they see? I'm trying here with really hard to control everything and make sure that everything is in order. And God, I mean, there is so much.
Yeah.
And you can't see it. You can't see that the people are looking around, wondering what on earth are you doing, because what they can see is a struggle. They cannot see that you have this ideal outcome in your head, and you want to see it through. And also they can't see your vulnerability, because you want to make sure that they can see that you are in control, which you clearly are not.
Yeah.
So it's like quite a weird one.
I think When I think about the controller, I always think of that desire, that high desire to be in control at all times, in every possible way. Because if you're not in control, then that means you're out of control, and there's no middle ground with the controller. It's just, I'm either in
Absolutely.
control or I'm out of control. I don't want to be out of control, therefore I have to be in control. Therefore everything I do needs to be done the way that I see fit, and we need to just follow through, and people need to jump on board and just get it, and know that I know what I'm doing. And of course, when we look at the strengths of the controller, there are absolutely the underlying strengths of the controller. There's proof that controllers can be absolutely brilliant. They are confident, they are decisive, they are good at getting the things done that other people are likely to avoid. They will take on the stuff that is uncomfortable quite often. They'll do all of those things. So there is all that underlying strength to it. But actually in controller mode, it's a this or it's that. And you're either backing me up or pretty much get out of my way, because the controller is also very competitive, kind of much more so than collaborative, generally speaking. And I always like to say generally speaking, because I don't like to assume everybody does everything exactly the same way.
Absolutely not. And personally, I'm not a competitive person. I don't particularly care about competition, to be honest. We are much more collaborative. I like to work with others, because I can see, even before our work with positive intelligence, I could see the value of that. It's just that even when working with others, I have to try very hard to make sure that I don't step on people's toes because of my forcefulness, because I recognize that, I can see that. The thing is that the being in control or out of control is very prominent, and it is the only narrative you can see. And if you are out of control, you cannot see others being out of control. That is another thing. You think everybody has it figured out, and you're the only one out of control. Therefore, you are alone in this battle. So it is quite strange there. But yes, you are right. Most controllers would be very competitive, but also I have been told that when it comes to certain things, because I want to see things through, and when I invest my time, my energy in something, I want to see it through. I am like a dog with a bone. I won't let go. That is like not a very nice picture to see, but at the end of the day, yeah, that this is a very typical controller, I think, picture.
Yeah, definitely. And I think so when we think about, how does that sense of being alone, I think you've already touched on it, that sometimes it's that forcefulness that makes other people feel so uncomfortable that they just step away. So I think there is a degree of that forcefulness that can sometimes make people think, I am not staying in this space with this person, because I can't handle that. And I think there's also, from the controller's perspective, it's this sense of like, listen, I'm doing you a favor because I'm getting stuff done, right? So sometimes it can be that sense of, I am really doing this for your benefit. So the best thing you can do is just let me crack on. But again, that sense of I must control everything really cuts other people out, because so how do I contribute to this? How do I get heard? How do I add something that you may not have thought of? Well, I don't get to, because that's the whole point, right? That's that deep in the, and I want to say really deep in the midst of being the controller, because we know that as a controller, this is not like what you do every single day in every single scenario. It just rears its head at times, right? Would you say that's fair?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, definitely. And it's funny because for many years as a coach, the one thing that I always advise is control what you can control. So, and the only thing you can really control is your own emotions, your own actions, your own thoughts. And I intellectually know that very well. And as you say, in most parts, I can follow my own advice. But
Yes.
it's when the saboteur like sticks his head out like big time, then like all my intellect goes out the way. And it happens, it does happen. It's not like, okay, yes, I've worked on that, now it's never there and whatever. There is something that comes up, like, and that's what we work with.
Yes.
And I think that the more I work with positive intelligence, the less I see my controller popping up.
Yeah.
um, and that's
Yeah.
very good, actually. I don't
And
miss
that's
them
the
at all.
beauty. Yeah. But that's the beauty of the work, isn't it? Is that, accepting in part that it's never going to completely disappear. However, the more you can tame it, the less times it appears, the better the spaces for you to build relationships. Because being alone, feeling alone is when people just don't want to be in that space, or can't get into that space with you, because they have a very different set of saboteurs that they're working with. And not forgetting that
Absolutely.
saboteurs are triggering saboteurs all the time as well, so we have all of that play going on. So it's just about understanding that this is not about completely writing it off, because we know that there are underlying strengths that we absolutely want to be able to tap into. Yet at the same time, being able to recognize when it pops its head up, and being able to, without judgment, really be able to say, what is it that triggers me in that, in that situation. And knowing that if I keep on allowing it to trigger me, chances are I will be pushing that person or those people further away. And if that's not my goal, I need to do something about it.
Absolutely. But also, like if you turn that on its head, it can be very helpful in like the moment you recognize it, to acknowledge it, and to also make yourself visible to others in that state. Because that can, like, like if you stop, and like for any saboteur, I think that works. But like if you stop and you listen, and you see that your saboteur is there, and you are in a confrontational state with whoever you are dealing with, and you sort of like, you know acknowledge it right there and then, and say, okay, I can see where I'm wrong here, what I'm doing, and I want to investigate further, or ask for their opinion, their, like how they see you at that particular moment in time. I think that becomes like very helpful.
Yes.
And it also allows for that other person to see you in that vulnerable state, and understand a little bit more about where you're coming from. So it becomes even like a tool to not be alone, to
Yes.
work on something, and at the same time coach the other person how they can be equally vulnerable with you and open, so you can investigate what's going on. Because usually these type of things come up really hard with people that you know very well, right? It's not
Yeah.
like going to come up with somebody you just met. So that's in those scenarios, I think that's very helpful.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm just, because I know that you have this experience, and because of your level of awareness around it, and because you have been working on it as well, is, when you find yourself in high controller state, and let's just say you're in a situation where you are in that state, and it's and there are other people involved, and you can see that other people are pulling themselves away. Excuse me. You got to open the door. You said to sneeze, and I'm the one who's sneezing. So hey, what can I tell you? So, but you see those people pulling away. I think you just touched on it a little bit there. Is being able to kind of confront it in that moment, or be really aware of it in that moment and talk about it, not
Yeah.
kind of rough ride over it, basically, for the good of all. One, so that you can say, I'm acknowledging, I see where I am, and for the other person to be able to say, and kind of almost like give them that lesson of this is what it's like for me when my controller, when that saboteur comes up and shows up. But what are the ways that you have applied to really help you break free? What are those things that you do? I mean, we use mental fitness. What are those things that you have found most beneficial to really keep your controller at a level that is, manageable? That is,
Well, let's face it, like when we are like highly hijacked, it's very hard to catch anything that is going on, or to see it, or to feel it, or any of these things, right? However, the good thing about the work that we do is that we have tools to preempt the what's coming. And how we do that is like by sort of like you don't get hijacked in like randomly, that's for sure. It's like very often there are specific times when you get hijacked, and for specific reasons, and you get triggered, as you said, with specific triggers. So the more you are aware of your saboteurs,
yes.
the more likely it is to know what these triggers are. And if you do, then it's easier to just be very present at that particular moment and say, okay, I'm about to be triggered. How do I stop this? And see, I'm taking a deep breath here, because you can be very much aware and like bring yourself in your body very much in that particular moment in time, to actually give yourself the ability to confront the saboteur in a stronger state, and that is our sage state. If we don't do that, it is very likely that the saboteur is going to take over, is going to just go come out to play big time, and like it's not going to be likely that you're going to catch it. I
Mm.
can give you a very very like okay everyday example and stuff. Yes, I do like things to be done my own way, for example, in the kitchen, right? And I have a partner that's like very good in the kitchen. He likes to cook. He does things. However, of course, things are not done the way I want. So, what happened through our relationship? Eventually, I was the only one doing things in the kitchen, right? And it took me a while to understand why. And it took me even longer to get him back in the kitchen. But thankfully, he now that I know what's going on, I can let go and share, and allow the other person to express as well how they feel, what they want to do, and how they want to do it, without having to deal with the criticism from the controller of like, oh, you haven't done this right and that right and the other thing right. So they can be like, they don't have to be things that they're like on business level or anything
No.
like that. It's things that affect your everyday life. And for a person that works and also looks after a home, to be a controller is a very hard thing, because what it means is that you will constantly have this thing in your mind that, oh, I have to do this and that and the other and the other, and I don't have time, and I'm not using the time in the correct way.
Mm.
And I find quite a lot of excuses as well. How can I do the thing I want to do if the kitchen is not right? You know what I mean? So there you go.
Oh my, but I love that situation because yes, everything is not about necessarily business. This is about our relationships. This is about our everyday
Absolutely.
lives, and actually seeing how we can very easily cause friction in our relationships. Because why would your partner want to come back into the kitchen? It's like you've all but chased him out of there. What is he coming back in it for? Why would he put himself in that position, right? So it's just being able to see how sometimes just the little things can blow something up into a whole other thing. And fortunately you have a partner who is understanding, and I think in you acknowledging what was going on, it makes it easy then to say, okay, I get this, and being able to come back to common ground. But it can be a build-up of these very little things that ends up fracturing a relationship for the long term. So
Absolutely.
it's not for us to kind of turn a blind eye to the little things, because the little things matter and the little things add up. And interestingly, you said about that ability to let go, because it's one of the things I put down. I kind of put down, like, for the controller, is that being able to practice letting go. Just like it's okay if it's not done in the 10-step way that I would do this. It's okay. The world isn't going to end. And you know what? If really, what's the bigger impact of this? The thing is still getting done. It's just not getting done the way that I would do it. And being able to come to terms with that, and being able to allow that to be, without kind of chasing people down, and really making other people, if you like, or leaving other people feeling less than because they're not meeting the expectations that you have set for them.
Absolutely. And I don't have kids, but I can only imagine for parents how that plays out when a kid is being criticized by a controller parent constantly. And this is not just something that passes; is something that stays with them for the rest of their lives, and it defines how they show up in their lives. So.
Yeah.
It is something to that we definitely need to consider, because everything that we do has an effect on somebody else, especially the people close to us, and that's why positive intelligence is fantastic for relationships. And
Yes.
I have
Yeah.
heard a lot of parents that are using it with their children as well, which is fabulous.
Yeah. Building that, because I think, just as you said, that impact, if you're, and we're talking about the control of the street, so I'll just stick with that. But if that is something high for you, the controller, and you have children, and you are speaking to them in the voice of the controller, that impact that it has on them, but also the saboteurs that start to develop within them to counter that. So
Absolutely.
it's that planting the seed of, what do they now need to show up as in order to counter that's coming at them. So we've got to constantly be thinking about that. And interesting, you were saying about coming to that place of shared kind of responsibility, and you said that you like collaborating, which I know because we collaborate and we get on hunky-dory. This is all good. And I think that also comes from building trust, and being able to know that, well, I trust this relationship, or I trust this situation, therefore I'm willing, and I know that I am able to share the responsibility, and really
Absolutely.
acknowledge that others have strengths too. And actually, it makes much more sense for me to let them bring those strengths in, because they'll bring things that I don't have, and together we could create something very, very different because of that.
Absolutely. Because I mean, that's the thing, is like, recognizing that every single one of us has something to offer. And it's not the beauty is not in that singularity or in the uniqueness of each one of us, but the uniqueness that we create together. Because there are so many different combinations of things that can happen when people work together, and that you don't get when you are on your own.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I was, like considering, which I haven't really considered in a very long time when it comes to a controller, is that because you want to be so much in control, generally, to have control over your life, it is very likely that you're going to keep people away, because it is other people that create the variance, I suppose,
Mm.
in the life. It's like you can have your own routine, your own way of doing things, your own way of showing up. But the moment you get somebody else in the mix, then, well, they will ask for your time. They will ask for something else to happen in the day that you will not have control over, and you will feel that you are out of control. So the being alone bit plays up quite a lot here as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and as you were talking, I was thinking of a client, an ex-client, and c- controller was very high on her on her saboteur list, and it was interesting to hear it play out in her language, where it was, oh, what I don't understand is why she can't do this way. Why can't she just do this way? And I'm just like, having that conversation and asking the questions is, who is she, and understanding, she's not you, she's this other person, and what skills does she bring to the table, and how actually do her skills intersect with yours, as opposed to it's this thing or it's this thing, and kind of having that conversation and unpacking that. And it was, what was beautiful was, as much as she herself was battling with her controller, when we started to have this conversation, she was like, you're right. I just keep on expecting everyone to do it my way. She said, that has been like one of my biggest challenges, barriers. She said, but I didn't realize. I just kept on thinking that it was other people and they just didn't get it and what was wrong with them. She said, now having had this conversation, she said, I'm understanding that it's because I'm setting expectations for them. And the expectations are my expectations, and they're my expectations for me, which, if you want to set expectations for yourself, cool and dandy, but to actually then put them on other people is a whole other thing. And again, so that was, and that relationship with this was a member of her team, was fracturing. It was absolutely fracturing. But in understanding her role in it, and there are two sides to everything, right? So, and then the truth in the middle, as we say. But understanding her role in it, she was able to take some really positive steps to bring that relationship back into alignment, where it felt good for both, and some trust that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because possibly, like as I said earlier, it's like the moment you realize something, you can share, especially if the relationship that is at the verge of fracturing is a serious relationship in your life, whether it is business or personal, and you really want this person to understand where you're coming from, rather than just say, I do this because I've always done it like this, and that's the way that is correct. And why is it correct like this? The other person will say, very, very, like logically. So and that's another thing, is like I found over the years, it was very hard to say why, because it's sort of like
Mm.
everything is so set in stone, and there is rigidity of, like, controlling and like holding on, and like that there comes a time when you don't have an answer, to why.
Yeah.
And things completely, get demolished from there. It's almost like a parent being asked by a child. How many times I know I've been asking so many questions with my parents, but and it gets to the stage like why, and you're like, oh, for goodness sakes, because that's it. But you know it's not an answer. It's not an
Indeed.
answer. You need to have an answer for every why if you want to bring up, like, people that will value themselves and will, have a certain, understanding of life and so on and so forth. You cannot just rely on that just because.
Yes. Just because I said so.
Yeah, exactly, because then you're talking from the area of power rather than an area of logic. And I think for a controller, being one, it gets to that state because you are getting on that high horse of like, I know best. Why? Because I know, It's like, because it's me. Why? Well, there is no
Exactly.
question there. Like,
And who are you to question me, right? So
yeah.
we can see
So
where all the breakdowns can come in with that, and so I do. So I think this is why it's so important and why it's great. And thank you for sharing. That situation at home, because I think we need to hear those things to understand how they can really interfere with our day-to-day life. They can really cause that breakdown in a relationship. They can cause the breakdown in how we look after ourselves. They can cause that breakdown in how we show up. Are we really performing at our best if we're in full control of everything, or we think we are, and we're doing everything our own way? Because really what we're doing is blocking out all these other skills and all these other perspectives and all these other ways. So I think that it kind of really does highlight this importance of being able to identify these saboteurs and then being able to do the work on them. So that, for me, more than anything, is this having that awareness of them and knowing when they're showing up and being able to catch them when they show up, and then being able to
and
do
it's very cathartic that when you realize what's driving this way of thinking, or what's driving this um, uh, how do you call it now, attitude.
yes, yes,
Because then you can do something with it, you can do something about it, and also you can help others that they are in that state potentially, or because you have experienced it and you have experienced it so strongly,
yeah.
and you know how it has served you over the years, and or not.
Oh no.
So, um, and I mean, honestly, I feel almost like relieved of not having to control everything.
Yeah,
And it is like, it just becomes so natural to just be without
yeah.
that sense of like, oh my god, I need to be grabbing on everything and everything and making sure that um, everything is done the way I see right.
Absolutely. And that, what does that give? That gives you a sense of lightness, like you were saying. You feel lighter. There's a sense of spaciousness, and of course, lightness and spaciousness create space for somebody else to step into. Right now, so now you are
Absolutely.
pulling people towards you as opposed to pushing them away. And we know in positive intelligence, in mental fitness, what we want to be doing is pulling, not pushing. What we
Correct.
want is flow and ease. So we know that if we are tending to those behaviors and attitudes that are causing distance, that we are also at the same time creating space for people to feel comfortable to come in. And the reality is, we're human beings, we need each other. kind of full stop, underline. I want
Absolutely.
regardless of what saboteurs we have, we are human beings, and whether we like it or not, or whether we believe it or not, we absolutely do need each other. So connection is incredibly important. And nobody, I don't believe that anyone wants to feel alone. It's about understanding what is it that I'm saying, doing, showing that is causing people to drift away. And then what is it that I need to do so that I can have that, the good grace and the space to bring them back in.
Absolutely. But again, I mean, let's just mention here that it's not about looking at yourself and saying, "Oh my God, what have I been doing?" Because at the end of the day, unless you are aware of something, it's very hard to pinpoint and understand. And the beauty is that you can't control it because it's up to you.
I love that. We're back to the control. Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is the thing is, this around here, this is my responsibility.
Absolutely.
So this is the bit that I need to be able to apply that control, the positive elements of control, and not assume that because I'm applying them to me that they now must apply to everybody else. That's sure. Kind of that bit where we need to kind of learn and flex. So yeah, great. Really good to hear. And I love, I do love when we get to share personal experiences and stories, because we know what that felt like. So we know what it felt like, we know what it looked like, and that can sometimes really help others to, oh my goodness, I've had a similar situation, and actually I had this one moment where I had to control something. It really got my partner's back up or my friend's back up, and we didn't speak for weeks or months. And it's bonkers. And you're just like, if we can nip it in the bud sooner because we recognize it.
Yeah.
Not only does it give us the space to feel better, but it gives the space for the other people to feel better too.
100%. 100%.
Fabulous. Wonderful. Well, Evie, thank you so much for sharing that with us. So really kind of looking at the controller up close and personal. That's the best way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's great. And just to also, so an opportunity for me to give thanks and be thankful for you and the fact that we do get to collaborate. So no competition here, it's just great collaboration. And for all the beautiful work that you've done in putting these backgrounds up for us with our QR codes. So if anybody needs to or would like to have a conversation with either of us about our community, you can scan these QR codes. They will still come up at the end, but you can scan these QR codes at any point and book a call and have a chat with us. And in addition to that, because I have to keep on throwing this in, we will have our details for our live event on the 11th of February.
I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yes, absolutely. So it will be an invitation for you to come join us live and do some activities and actually come to understand the importance of this work, mental fitness, and also how we are applying it and bringing it into this beautiful community that we are co-creating.
Fabulous.
Awesome.
It's really, really lovely to be here on with you and, to share, because anything that we share that can help and impact even one person, it's good work. So thank you.
We're always happy with that. Fantastic. And for those who have tuned in, thank you so much. For those who are watching this on replay, thank you so much. As always, we welcome your comments, your thoughts. Please leave those in the chat and we will respond in good time. Thank you so much. Thank you, Evie.
Bye. Thanks.